an absolutely historic attack, the one carried out by the Russian Federation just tonight against Ukrainian territory. That's right, it's historic because it's a triple-pronged attack, not because we're talking about the most massive attack in all of history. Of the special military operation of Never Ever. Most likely in this sense, no. There have been much larger attacks, although here some sources cite up to 600 drones, 592 to be exact, between drones and all kinds of missiles that the Russian Federation has launched against Ukrainian territory. But what we especially highlight here is the nature of the attack. I would say that more than being massive, it was combined, or rather, in addition to being massive, it was also combined. Because this is an attack that has tremendous strategic importance, great military significance, but here we highlight one of unparalleled international importance, because what has been affected is not only a key railway hub, but also several airfields, plants, and factories. Absolutely fundamental for Ukraine when it comes to continuing to produce weapons and to keep participating in this NATO war against the Russian Federation. But also, now we are talking on one hand about a Turkish factory, and not just any factory. Bayraktar's factory, which according to Ukrainian sources themselves was already prepared to finish its construction. In August 2025, that is, it was already preparing for its launch. They had carried out all kinds of staff training. When, oh my God, the Russian Federation arrived with the attack, the details of which we will see next. And not only that, but a medium Ukrainian reconnaissance ship has also been destroyed by an unmanned boat from the Russian Federation. This marks a milestone and turns the attack into a combined one, because it was not only carried out by air, and in this sense, if Ukraine used these unmanned boats, they did so with much more success. Now it's the turn of the Russian Federation Navy, and it's true that it took them some time to carry out these preparations. But now, the first ship, the Simferopol vessel as we understand it, according to the information coming from Ukraine, it is already at the bottom of the Danube, which is where it was attacked. And once we've highlighted the most important points of the attack in question, we'll move on to the details and also to the images. First of all, that unmanned boat and the corresponding comment through the use of a high-speed unmanned boat. At the mouth of the Danube River, the Ukrainian Navy's reconnaissance ship Medius Simferopol was hit. As a result of the attack, the Ukrainian ship sank. That's just a start. Next, without a doubt, we have to highlight and discuss the damage that has now been reported by the Ukrainian side at that Turkish factory. Well, Turkish-Ukrainian. It could already be said that Bayraktar was going to be used to increase Ukraine's military capacity, in this case through drones. By the way, what would I really tell you about all this within the special military operation? It's not that they have given particularly good results, rather they received a reputation that could be improved. However, it seems that Turkey was willing to keep playing this double-sided game. That is, on one hand, trying to maintain good relations with the Russian Federation, and on the other hand, continuing to make money. Through that collaboration with Ukraine, first by sending them their Bayraktar drones, and second by directly building facilities. Here we're talking about around $100 million of investment to manufacture those same drones in Ukraine. From my humble point of view, it's absolute madness considering what's happening right now. Not just in the world, but in Ukraine itself, which is suffering massive attacks from the Russian Federation day in and day out, and they're intensifying every day. But be that as it may, what could have been a perfect business, for now it seems like its opening will have to be postponed. Because according to Ukrainian sources, there were two impacts recorded. The production capabilities suffered serious damage. Despite the war and the preliminary attacks, the company continued to invest tens of millions of its own funds, training staff and preparing production. Most of the facilities were almost ready, and the main staff had completed their training. This is stated by Lviv Councilman Igor Sienkiewicz. Regarding the attack itself, it was also of great importance. We should highlight an almost military target, we could say, although it will have a huge military implication. In the Vinnytsia region, a key railway hub that connects the central part of Ukraine with the western part of the country has been attacked, and it will very likely result in massive detours. On one hand, it's about weaponry, and on the other hand, all kinds of supplies that the Ukrainian army needs practically every day. And in fact, there is already talk of up to 3 locomotives that have been destroyed while carrying that military equipment. Most likely, this is also about Western weaponry. And finally, we must also highlight, without a doubt, the main objective of the combined attack in question, which has mainly focused on the Kyiv region. And there, well, the images are absolutely spectacular. There are several factories that produce both weapons and drones which have suffered extremely serious damage. And in this regard, we especially highlight the assembly plant of the aerospace industry Spetsabaronmas, the missile components factory Kievsky Rayozavod, the military industrial company Kiev 22 UKR Spet Systems, and the company Samsung Ukraine, as well as several airfields within Ukrainian territory, which now, at this stage of the special military operation, are acquiring unparalleled importance. This attack, I would tell you that in addition to a constant increase in stakes by the Russian Federation, which is quite planned because we are advancing within the summer campaign. And Russia still has key locations left to take, such as, for example, Pakrovsky and Konstantinovsky. We will undoubtedly talk about the military situation in the following reports. But in addition, you could say, it could certainly be considered that this attack is a response to the attack that Ukraine recently carried out against the territory of the Russian Federation, a massive drone attack. And in fact, it forced me to spend 16 hours, no more and no less, at Kazan airport with my husband and my son, which was not easy at all. In fact, there you have the corresponding report on how we experienced that absolutely terrible day. So Ukraine celebrated its Independence Day in such a vile way, and we laughed, wondering to what extent Ukraine could really be considered an independent state or not. But also, the answer, without a doubt, would not take long to arrive. I always tell you about these attacks. Ukraine does nothing but give the Russian Federation one opportunity after another to carry out attacks in response, which moreover cannot be condemned by the West, especially by the United States, because it is understood that indeed it was Ukraine that started or continued with that constant series of attacks against Russian territory, to which indeed, even from Washington, careful, they understand that Russia has to respond. How many more attacks will be necessary until Ukraine learns? Or is it that, should we already consider that objective absolutely lost, and understand that these attacks from Ukraine will continue, and therefore so will the responses from the Russian Federation? Basically, for as long as the special military operation continues. I look forward to your opinion on this in the comments, and I'll see you in tomorrow's report.